There are aches no physician can tend to, and wounds that lie beyond the reach of any balm. You may walk upright, speak plainly, and even laugh with convincing rhythm, and still be crumbling inwardly, one quiet breath at a time. The pain no one sees is the most dangerous kind, not because it cannot be soothed, but because it is so easily ignored. We become experts in denial, dressing up despair in busy schedules, clever distractions, and noble-sounding responsibilities. But buried pain is not buried forever. It grows roots, it festers, and unless it is brought into the light, it will consume the soul it hides within. This is not melodrama, this is the slow erosion of the self. And so, before the damage is complete, God calls, not in a booming voice, not in a miraculous sign, but often in the quietest hour, when you are too tired to pretend and too lonely to lie to yourself. He says, "Rest, child, rest, before your restlessness becomes your ruin." Rest in this sense is not the mere pause of labor. It is not sleep, it is not vacation. It is the sacred recentering of your soul toward the one who made it. It is the moment when you stop outrunning your pain and let him tend to it. And in that rest, in that holy quiet, the voice of God often speaks again, not just to soothe, but to send. Because you were never meant to endure this alone. No one walks through fire without a hand to hold unless they believe they are unworthy of rescue. But God does not abandon his wounded. He sends someone, always, not in grandeur, but in grace. Perhaps you've met them already, or perhaps they are on their way. They do not come wrapped in perfection. They are not angels nor idealized fantasies. They are human, stubbornly, gloriously human. But they carry with them something unmistakable, a kind of gravity your soul recognizes before your mind can make sense of it. They see through your polished phrases, they notice what you hide, and when they speak, something dormant in you stirs. Not because they have all the answers, but because they refuse to let you vanish into the silence. They have been sent, not as a cure, but as a companion. Their love will feel like both a challenge and a healing, a mirror and a compass. The world will not understand the way they look at you, as if you are not merely to be loved, but remembered, as if you are some exiled royalty who forgot who they were. And perhaps you did. Perhaps your pain made you forget the strength you carry, the worth you possess, the calling upon your name. But they haven't forgotten, because they were sent not just to walk with you, but to remind you, not to complete you, but to call you into completion. This is no ordinary partnership. It is divine choreography. And if you will rest, if you will dare to trust that your unseen wounds are seen by the one who made you, then you will begin to hear the call beneath the noise, a voice that says, "You were never forsaken. This pain will not define you. Rest now, beloved, for you are being led not to comfort alone, but to transformation. And when your eyes meet the one he has sent, you will know, not because they save you, but because they stand with you as you are being saved." There is a kind of pain that is not dramatic, not loud, not theatrical. It does not cry out in the streets or shatter dishes in the kitchen. It lingers quietly, in tired glances, in postponed dreams, in the small sighs when no one is watching. This pain does not demand attention, but it bleeds nonetheless, slowly, steadily, and the danger lies in its invisibility. You can live with it for years, so long that it becomes familiar, like an old coat, tattered but warm. You tell yourself it's not so bad, others have it worse. You still get your work done, you still laugh when the moment calls for it. But God sees, He always sees. There is a weariness of the soul that no sleep can touch. It is the exhaustion that comes from pretending to be whole while you quietly fracture inside. And it is precisely there, in that hidden place, that God speaks the most urgent invitation. Come away, rest, before what is bent finally breaks. But this rest He speaks of is not laziness, nor is it escape. It is not some spiritual vacation where everything is forgotten. No, this rest is far more sacred. It is a returning, a re-anchoring of the self in the truth you've tried to outrun, that you were not meant to carry this alone. The pain you have buried was never meant to be your companion. It has taught you, yes, but it cannot be your master. And before it becomes your identity, God calls you to lay it down, not in shame, but in trust. Rest, in God's language, is not an interruption, it is a command, a holy pause in which the soul is mended and reminded. It is where He speaks, not to your performance, but to your essence. You may have forgotten who you are. The world is noisy and pain makes everything blur, but He has not forgotten. And so He calls you not just to stop, but to come. And in the coming you begin to see again. It is often in that sacred stillness, when the mask finally falls, that God begins His quiet rescue. Not through thunder or lightning, but through the arrival of another. This is the great kindness of heaven, that when our vision dims, another is sent who sees what we no longer do. This person, this partner, is not an idol. They are not perfect, but they carry with them something holy. They are not just a comfort, they are a sign. You may recognize them not by the way they dazzle you, but by the way they steady you. Their presence feels less like escape and more like home. When they speak, your heart does not leap with frenzy, but settle with peace. They are not here to fix you, that was never their job, but to walk beside you as you remember what healing feels like. Their love is not always soft, but it is always true, and it will call out of you things that had been buried beneath your pain. Laughter, hope, courage, belief. They do not rescue you, but they remind you that you are worth rescuing. God sends this person not as a decoration to your life, but as a direction, a mirror, a map. Through them you may begin to believe again, not just in love, but in purpose. They do not complete you, for you were never incomplete, but they help you gather what pain scattered. And as they walk with you, not ahead, not behind, but beside, you will begin to see that perhaps even your pain had a place in the story, not as the end, but as the beginning of a deeper becoming. There is a silence deeper than quiet, a kind of stillness that grows not from peace, but from weariness too old to name. You may walk among others and fulfill every duty expected of you, but inside, there's a room no one enters. It holds the ache, the confusion, the bitterness that formed when life didn't unfold the way you once hoped. You carry it silently, not because you want to, but because you've convinced yourself no one would understand. And after enough time, even you stop questioning it. You just keep going. And yet, in the quietest moments, when the noise of the world fades, something rises up, a longing for rest, not of body, but of soul. It is then that God speaks, not with condemnation, not with commands, but with a quiet plea. Come to me, rest, before you forget you were ever whole. This rest is not weakness. It is the courageous act of those who trust that they were made for more than survival. For rest, in the hands of God, is an instrument of restoration. It is the sacred pause that makes healing possible. You were not created to carry invisible wounds forever. The pain that no one sees is not hidden from the eyes of your Creator. He does not wait for you to fix yourself before He loves you. He steps into the dark corners and says, "Here, I will sit with you. Let me carry what you cannot." And often God's care comes wrapped not in miracles, but in people. He sends someone, not to impress you, not to distract you, but to see you, truly see you. This person may not arrive with fanfare. You might not even recognize the significance at first, but over time, their presence reveals something unmistakable. Peace begins to return. Laughter no longer feels forced. Tears become less frightening. You are slowly seen into healing. They were not sent by accident. There is something about them that draws out the truer parts of you, the parts you've buried, the parts that still hope. Their voice might calm storms you didn't know had names. They are not flawless, they stumble too, but even their flaws do not make you afraid, because love, when it's been sent rather than stumbled into, has a purpose far beyond comfort. This partner is a mirror. They show you what God still sees in you. They speak not to your pain, but to your promise. You might resist at first. That's understandable. Pain trains us to build walls, not welcome mats. But little by little, their faith in you becomes something you lean on. You find yourself remembering things you thought you'd lost. Dreams, strength, even joy. They don't carry you, but they walk with you. And in their presence, you begin to walk differently. Not because everything is easy, but because you're no longer alone. God didn't send them to save you. He already did that. He sent them to walk beside you as you learn to live saved, as you learn to rest, to breathe, to trust again, not just in others, but in the voice that first called you chosen. Their love is an echo of His, and in receiving it, you begin to understand what has always been true. You were never abandoned, never invisible, never disqualified by your pain. You were simply tired. And now, in the presence of one sent to walk with you, rest begins to do its work. Healing is rarely instant. It unfolds in moments, conversations, quiet evenings, and difficult honesty. But now, you are no longer doing it alone, and that changes everything. There are days when you wake and already feel the weight, though nothing has gone wrong. It's as though sorrow waits for you at the edge of the bed. Not loud, not harsh, just familiar. You've carried it for so long that its presence no longer surprises you. This quiet ache weaves into your routine, hides behind your responsibilities, and even cloaks itself in your strength. You get things done. You are there for others. You smile. But beneath it all, something inside feels worn thin, like fabric that's been stretched too many times. And because it doesn't scream, you don't stop. You press on. Yet the pain no one sees is often the most dangerous, not because it cannot be endured, but because it convinces you that endurance is all there is. And so, God calls, not in wrath, not in demand, but in mercy. Rest, beloved, before what is numb becomes dead. This is not rest as the world defines it, a luxury, a moment stolen in between appointments. No, this is the rest of the soul, the kind only found in surrender. It is the posture of being held, not because you are weak, but because you have carried too much for too long. Divine rest is not the giving up of responsibility, but the giving over of burdens not meant for you. And this rest is not found in escape, but in return. Return to God, to yourself, to the deeper truth you've been too tired to touch. Pain tells you you're alone. Rest reminds you that you're not. And when you finally sit still enough to let the silence speak, you realize God was always there, waiting. Not for perfection, not for strength, just for permission to come close. And often God's closeness takes the shape of another, someone you didn't expect, or perhaps someone you've always known, but now something has shifted. Their presence becomes a vessel of peace. You find you don't need to explain as much with them. They notice without being told. They don't fix you. They don't even try. Instead, they remain. This is no ordinary connection. It's not built on common interests or fleeting chemistry. It's something deeper, a recognition as though your spirit knew theirs long before your eyes did. God sends people like this not to distract you from your journey, but to walk it with you. They are His kindness in human form. This person, your partner, your guide, has been sent not because you are incapable, but because even the strong need someone to lean on. They don't define your worth, but they help uncover it. They hold up a mirror that reflects not your pain, but your promise. And while you may resist it at first, because pain has taught you to guard your heart, you begin to sense something disarming about them. Their presence calls you to be honest, to breathe, to hope again. You may not say it aloud, but your soul knows. This is someone sent. And in time, what began as a companion becomes something more profound, a calling answered in both of you. They are not the answer to your suffering, but a witness to your healing. And you, in turn, become the same for them. Together you do not erase the past, but you begin to redeem it. You learn that rest is not just something God gives, it's something He builds into the space between two hearts that trust Him. Your healing is no longer a solitary journey. It becomes shared, and that, in itself, is a miracle. The pain may not vanish overnight, but it begins to lose its voice, and what grows in its place is something you once thought lost. Peace, yes, but also purpose. You are no longer just surviving, you are being restored, not by might, but by mercy, and not alone. There are battles no one applauds, because no one knows they're being fought. You may move through your days with grace, fulfill expectations, speak kindly, even offer help to others, and still be unraveling quietly on the inside. It's not the dramatic kind of suffering, but the quiet type, the persistent kind that doesn't draw attention. The ache hides behind tasks completed and responsibilities managed. And over time you stop reaching for help because the silence around you suggests no one notices. But God notices. Always. There is no pain so hidden that it escapes His attention. He sees the invisible burdens, the disappointments too complex to explain, the silent questions you never say aloud. And in His mercy He whispers, "Rest," before you forget that your soul is more than what it can carry. Rest is not what the world has sold us. It isn't idleness or laziness or failure. True rest is a returning to the one who shaped your soul and never once asked you to prove your worth through exhaustion. This kind of rest does not promise an escape from life, but a realignment within it. It is not the turning away from reality, but the turning toward God in its midst. You are not asked to drop everything, but to hand over what was never yours to carry alone. You are not built to function endlessly, to smile through every storm, to hold yourself together without pause. And yet we try, until one day we can't. And that moment, the breaking point, is often where the real healing begins. Not because you failed, but because you finally slowed down enough to let God touch what you've hidden. And when you let Him near, He doesn't just give you strength, He gives you someone. God often answers the cries we don't speak by sending a person into our life whose presence carries more than affection. This person doesn't just see the surface, they listen differently. They look at you with a kind of understanding that makes you feel like you've been found. They might not have all the right words, but they say the ones that matter. They don't try to solve you, and they don't rush your healing. They stay, and that is how you know they were sent, not because they came at the perfect time, but because something about their being with you makes you remember who you are underneath the pain. They are not a savior, nor are they your escape. They are a partner, sent not to carry your burdens for you, but to walk beside you as you find the strength to carry them differently. They may challenge you, stretch you, draw out things you try to bury, but always with gentleness. Their love doesn't press in too fast or demand what you're not ready to give. It invites. It opens doors you closed in fear. And in time, this connection becomes a sacred ground, a place where healing is not rushed, but welcomed. You begin to speak honestly again. You begin to laugh from deeper places. You start to believe not just in them, but in the possibility that God hasn't forgotten you. And something extraordinary happens when you allow this kind of love in. Your pain starts to lose its control. It may still be there, but it no longer defines you. You are no longer walking wounded and alone. You are walking chosen, accompanied. This person, your partner in the truest sense, becomes a mirror of the love God always had for you. Through them, He shows you that you were never meant to disappear under your suffering. You were meant to rise through it, to grow from it, to be transformed by it, and to be loved in the middle of it. So now, you are not just surviving, you are beginning again, not because life suddenly became easy, but because someone came who reminded you, you are not alone, and you never were.